Welcome to the Itch Network podcast, where we talk about video games, movies, and whatever the hell else we want to talk about. I'm with my great friend JD.
I am great. I'm kidding.
JD's nomming on some ramen. I just made that up
Nominal.
right now. How impressive is that?
Look at you. When's the mixtape dropping?
Mm, uh, at the Fire
Album of the year.
Festival. Yeah.
Album of the year.
um, we're really excited. We got some interesting news. We got a weird review of a weird Netflix show. We've got Division talk, Microsoft and Sony working together. Maybe a quick mention of the Epic Store. There's a little bit of drama there. But before we get into any of that, JD, what have you been up to?
um, Watching that Game of Thrones. I'm officially caught up. And I randomly just started playing some older games,
Do
like
you
Dragons.
do you
What?
hate Game of Thrones as much as everybody else apparently hates Game of Thrones?
No, because it doesn't affect me. However, I feel like these people are new to Heartbreak or new to, hey, that doesn't make sense. Because, I come from Lost and 24, where that
Yeah.
shit didn't make sense. I just watched it anyway, you know. But nah, and plus, you really can't say much until it's completed, right? Maybe that was a bad episode, or maybe that was just an episode that was off, but the entire picture is not revealed yet, so you really can't judge it until it's all complete. So there's a Kotaku thing where they're like, Game of Thrones is too far to save. It's like, calm the fuck down, dude. Like, relax. Wait until it's all out before you say, as a collective, this thing can't be saved. Like, it doesn't matter if nothing changes or not. It's like watching three-fourths of the movie. I've seen three-fourths of Atomic Blonde. Can't give you a review on it because I walked out. Not because it was bad. I had to go. I had to leave.
That's something that you and I should debate at some point.
We could do it right now.
Well,
if you
it's
could, if
I don't
Oh,
necessarily I
walking out or the how much you consume of
of
media
product
before.
before you
Yeah, a
can.
product. Yeah.
Yeah, specific to video games because movies, whatever. I mean, you should finish it because it's like 2 hours long. But
And all
of
you're doing is sitting there.
yeah, you're just a passive observer. But the video game one, I think we would have an interesting debate on. Um, but
I feel like we have.
you think so?
I think we've talked about it before.
Uh,
But
anyway,
hey, nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I've been playing Dragon's Dogma on PC. What else have I been playing on PC? I haven't played any Unist at all, and I feel sort of bad about it. I played a little bit of Overwatch the other day. It just feels nice to play the game again because I spent so much hours into it.
yeah.
And then Dungeon Siege and Dragon Age Origins.
What's what's Overwatch like now?
Everyone thinks they are the how do I put it? Like, I guess it's not really too much changed when it comes to PC on console, because I started playing initially on console. People wouldn't voice chat unless they were toxic, really.
Yeah.
Um, and when you
Or they
were,
were 3 years old and screaming into the microphone.
well, hey, that's toxicity right there, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But when I started playing on PC, I noticed there was a learning curve, of course, with getting back into PC gaming because I used to be primarily PC gaming, and then my dad's like, hey, "You want some consoles?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" And then
Like hell I do.
yeah, right. Put them over here. And then I went back, and I'm just like, God damn, my aim fucking blows. So I had to work on that stuff. But I played one match, first time playing Baptiste, and someone was already just out there with stuff to say. Like, I've played healers and support plenty of times back in the day, but it's just like they're like, "Oh, you're not playing him right." And I'm just like, "All right, well, whatever. I'm having fun. I don't give a fuck." You know. So, things like that. It's not like
I got a
I'm out of position or anything like that. It's just more of like you're not doing things the way I want you to do them, so you're playing them wrong. I'm
I
just
got
like, all right,
I've got a couple questions for you about that kind of talk.
whatever. Okay.
The first well, no, well, one is about that kind of talk. The other is separate. But the first is, what do you feel is the appropriate amount of, I get, how do you word it, feedback? Like, can you solicit feedback from a person you don't know online? And
I feel like
if so, what's the best way to get it?
I feel like it's almost always going to end in a bad and negative light if it's um, if it's one without reason, and two if it's flawed logically from the get-go. So again, that guy that was complaining about me playing Baptiste, he's upset that I'm not playing him the way that other people who play him say I should play him. Like I played a lot of Moira, for instance. Back when I played Moira when she first came out, I didn't play like a lot of people played her. So a lot of people outside of just wanting to do damage all the time didn't use her orbs properly. I always use her orbs to bounce off of walls and come back. Generally, if we're in tighter areas, I would, and it's something so simple, but I would shoot them in areas where I know they would bounce back. And if it was like sort of like the front line area, like if I got a Reinhardt that's got a shield up and I got a couple DPS that are stopping, that's like where a choke point where we're stopping the guy. I'd make sure the orb could bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people didn't play Moira like that, and a lot of people are like, oh, just shoot your damaging orbs to stop that Zenyatta, and it's more of a situational thing than every time you should do this, because Moira's a healer, she just happens to do damage um, in a situation like that. So I would get people telling me about Moira being like, oh, you shouldn't play Moira this way. And if it's first of all, if it's unsolicited, I didn't ask for your opinion, it can come off really like, oh, hey, why aren't you doing this? And it's like, well, because I don't have to play this character. Like,
Yeah.
why aren't you following the Genji on his suicide mission? Because I don't fucking want to. I don't have mobility like Genji does. I have horizontal mobility. I don't have this verticality that he does. I'm not going to follow him. And plus, if he overstretches, he overstretches. Or overextends. That's his fault. But the second thing is, it has to come from a place of genuine intent. I had a person when I was playing Eunice, because I play Akatsuki, who also played Akatsuki. Eunice only allows you to play one match. You
Mm-hmm.
don't run it back on a 2 out of 3 or anything like that.
Oh, it's just one fall.
It's not one round. So like a round is like round 1 fight. Someone wins is round 2 fight. If one guy wins those 2 rounds, that's a match, or a set. That's a set. So you just have one set. That's it. It's just first guy that wins, really.
Yeah.
There's no 3 out of 5. There's no 2 out of 3. None of that stuff. Like Tekken uses 3 rounds, and you have to run it back.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, in Eunice, it's just like, oh, nope, you won that match. That's it. Or you won that set. All right, cool. So guy beats me, and then he goes, hey, you seemed a little bit nervous there. I have been playing him for 2 months, and I remember when I used to play like how you do it, and I was immediately like, yeah, you don't have tact. So I know you're trying to either A, throw out an insult, or B, you're trying to. It was one match. It's not something where I continually lose to this guy, and I'm like, hey man, what do I need to do? No, we didn't even get a chance to know each other.
Yeah.
One match is not enough to know how another person plays.
What's up, Desert Loner? How are you? Anyway, keep going.
So coming from that angle, it's very, you have to, if you're going to provide it and it's unsolicited, I would say you have to understand, you have to have the assumption that they're not going to appreciate your feedback.
That
And
is very true.
And you have to word it a certain way, because if your intent is truly to be positive about it, your tact is really the most important factor there. Hey
Yeah.
man, I know you didn't ask for it, but I noticed that you did this move a lot. Not trying to harp on you or anything. It's like minus whatever. On block, I could really take advantage of it. Just a heads up. I appreciate it. Like you should end it with like a hey, I appreciate the matches. I hope we fight again. That kind of thing. Or in like Overwatch, hey, the Widow that's not the best spot for you to be. I've played Widow a lot. I understand you're probably just playing for fun. Just want to throw it out there. I do appreciate your when you got that triple kill that allowed us to push, like that kind of thing.
Hmm.
That's how you should word it instead of just being like, that's a bad spot to be, right? It's
Yeah. Well, I was playing League yesterday, and I had that kind of come up where I was getting I was getting rocked, and part of it's my fault. You have to take the blame for what you for your piece, and I was getting destroyed as Olaf top. That doesn't mean anything to you, but that's what was going on. And uh, like 20 minutes into the game, somebody was like, I see why you're losing. You're not engaging hard enough. That's the only reason you would lose in that top lane position." And at first, you get mad because you don't want to be accused of anything. You don't like getting attacked, but then you refocus and you're like, okay, that person just gave me criticism, which could be, you could describe that as feedback, right? um, and so you go, okay, he gave me feedback. He says to be more aggressive. That's great. And then like 20 seconds later, he goes, "That's why you're ruining the game for us." And I'm like, there it goes. Like I could have had like a moment there where I learned something from somebody else who was teaching me, making me a better player. And instead he was just shutting me down. And so I kind of threw away everything. But that's kind of what brought me to thinking about that. Like what's the right amount, or where does it feedback start and being an asshole start?
Yeah, because it really is like this. You got to understand, it's someone that's having a singular interaction with you.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about you. You don't know anything about them. Let's just base it off of that. If you're coming off and you're immediately saying like what that guy said, it's very easy for a player to be like, "Well, fuck everything you said. Like you did." It's like, "Well, who cares what you think, man?
Yeah.
You think I'm losing? I'm the singular reason why we're losing." That's like that shit when it's very common in Overwatch too. Oh man, we when I used to play Tracer very consistently, and I was actually good with her. They'd be like, "Oh, we got Tracer, so you shouldn't have Tracer on this match. You should switch. We're losing because of you and stuff like that." And I'm like, "It's not that. It's not a automatic win switch. Just because I play Tracer on a map where she works at or works better at doesn't suddenly mean that I will always win with Tracer. You can still lose, but it's like being on a football team, and then you're part of the defensive line. You don't see the whole picture all the time, but you're going like, oh, they keep getting past us because Rogers over here is doing this, but you don't see the full picture. You don't see that maybe there's a guy to your right, or there's a guy to your left that's not putting forth the effort, and the quarterback keeps getting sacked as a result. Or you'll blame the wide receivers because they can't catch the ball, or whatever the case is, and at the end of the day, it's because the quarterback threw a bad pass,
Hmm.
kind of a thing. So there's a lot of that, just in general, or someone didn't stick to the play. It's very easy to just be isolated and think that that's the only reason. And especially on team games, you have to check yourself before you say anything like that. Like when I play like Overwatch with Troy, Troy just doesn't fucking care. Troy will just be like, "Yeah, whatever. Your mom sucks like
So you're saying
fungus toad."
you got to understand if the person you're about to talk to is willing to accept it.
Yeah, not just that you're saying it and you think it's valid, that they're going to accept it. And if they're not going to accept it, the last thing you want to do, especially in a team game, is create strife within your team
Yeah, I
by
agree.
what you say.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so hard to do it online, right? Is that it's very likely that we're not on the same page because I don't know the person. So I'm going to immediately assume, based on previous interactions on the internet, that this person's an asshole.
It's either, excuse me, I'm
Yeah.
muting myself one. It's either that or it's uh, it's really just everyone is more likely to be negative on the internet. Anonymity is a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
So if you're not double checking what you're saying and you don't know what you're talking about, or you don't have a full view of the picture, like there could absolutely be times if I'm playing like Overwatch where I'm like, ah man, I should have used my ult, right? And if someone goes, and I know that, right? Like I should use my ult at that clutch moment. It would have helped the team. Let's just say I don't. I know that in the back of my head. But if I have a guy that goes, hey, not trying to, blame you or anything like that, but that was a good time to use your ult, then it's like, yeah, he's right. But if let's rewind and say it's that exact same situation, and guy goes, because you didn't use your fucking ult, we lost. You're a
Yes.
fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Then it's like, I don't fucking care about you.
Yeah, fuck you. I won't use my ult ever when I'm playing with you. Which is the exact opposite, right? Of what good feedback is supposed to do. You know?
There's an art. There's an art to it.
Yeah, because good feedback is supposed to make you better and therefore make everybody better collectively. But in a lot of the games that we play right now, you're not on a consistent team. So there is no man, that makes it complicated to become a better team player if you're not going to play with them again, because you never build that rapport, that consistency. It's always a crapshoot.
Well, I mean, you say that, but I also think to an extent, certain games, like, I'm not talking crap about this game at all, but like Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah.
Right. It's not entire. It is about tactics. It's about cooperating and communicating with each other. But you can play really quick matches in that game, just like you can in Overwatch if it's like a steamroll, and that the winning team doesn't even know why they won. It could be that just much of a steamroll, and uh, because the matches end that quickly, and people are losing or whatnot, they might not be inclined to communicate, might not be inclined to accept criticism or anything like. I forgot my point. Whatever. Anyway, yes, I think you're right. You are right. I'm wrong. You are correct.
Desert Loner says it's best to be supportive. Hey, buddy, thanks for playing with us. You could improve on X. If you have questions, ask. Yeah, I think coming from a non-hurtful place immediately, like you were saying, is the best way. If you can somehow get across that you're not trying to yell at the person, that you're not trying to be mean, the person is going to more likely than not be open to your criticism. Even starting with your criticism is probably a bad idea, because they're going to assume you're saying it in a negative voice. I kind of equate it to like when somebody honks at you in traffic. Have you ever been honked at in traffic? The honk is meant to be annoying and meant to be like naggy and loud and obtrusive, because if it wasn't, it would never get your attention. But when somebody's honking at you, your instinct is like, that person's an asshole because they honked at me, and they're probably mad at me, and they're probably pissed off in their car. But that's not true. That's the only mechanism that they have to tell you, hey, you're not moving and you're supposed to be moving. So I think online dialogue is similar to that, in that people are going to assume if you're giving them criticism, it's negative and they're mad at you. But if you can open up in a way that's like, kind of like Desert Runner saying, like, hey, thanks for playing, or you did a good job top lane, or you did this really well, and then sneak in like, here's how you can get better. Like, that is, if you can wrap it in that kind of way, I think it would go a long way to make people actually receptive to that kind of feedback.
Right. It's not a matter of us stating that don't hurt someone's feelings. It's the concept of, do you want someone to actually take your comment into consideration? Well, you sort of have to play on their team in that regard. You have to come from a place, even if you're fucking pissed off, you have to come from a place that's like, all right, not telling you this because I think you're a fucking bad player. I'm telling you this because, overall, I think this can improve your performance. That's it. So it's one of those things. And I mean, I think we've beaten it dead at this point, but it's all about the way you approach it at the end of the day.
My other question is far less grandiose, but when you're playing in a team game right now, what role do you take? What's your instinct?
Depends on the genre. What are you saying? Like, are you saying like from a shooter? Well, if it's a shooter, I'll generally take some sort of a specialist role. Like a good example is when me and you play Division. And I think you have a sniper rifle too, right?
Hmm.
You just never use it.
Rarely fucking use it.
I have a sniper rifle and I have a SMG. And my specialty focus is on being able to do a high amount of damage in a short amount of time. SMGs have a faster firing rate, so if someone's close to me, I can light them up super quick. Right, those crazy guys that run at you with the batons, and then
Yeah,
if it's
like
someone
one
that's
hit
further
kills, right?
away,
They
no, not one hit,
they're
but they
close.
can they can fuck you up pretty easily.
Yeah.
But the same can be said about a guy that's far away. I can blow his head off from really far away if he's trying to snipe us, and I use the healing thing just because it keeps us alive. And well, not us, me. I will occasionally put it on you, but it's mainly for me. And then I have the bomb, which I can send out the sentry bomb that will one hit kill like an enemy. So if it's like a really troublesome guy, I'll just send him on his way to blow up somebody real quick. My emphasis is on taking out troublemakers as quickly as possible. But if we're talking about like an RPG, I've been shifting more towards like a magic sort of like standpoint.
Hmm.
Like I guess it's the same thing. It's like nuking. Like Diablo 2, I started playing the Necromancer on our hardcore run with my hardcore run with Troy,
Yeah.
uh, and I switched to the Trapsin, so the Trap Assassin, because they do crazy amounts of damage, um, and they have low risk on their end. And same could be said about um, my Dragon's Dogma run. I'm playing through as a mage right now, so just cast a lot of crazy magic. I never played the mage before, so it's like it's new to me. And then furthermore, in Dragon Age Origins and with KOTOR, because I've been wanting to play KOTOR again, I'm going to be playing specifically someone that uses the Force primarily. And Dragon Age Origins, I'll probably have. You could really make a busted build in that game by being the arcane knight. There's a way to manipulate the game, and you're just like you're unstoppable. I'll probably do that. So
I I don't know if it's because I've been working out more or whatever it is, but or my testosterone's up or something. But I've been playing bruisers.
just
I'm
in your face.
Yeah, I'm like in League of Legends, and again, these don't mean anything to you, but I'm playing Olaf and Jax and
Yeah,
Garen
it's
a
from that
lot.
movie, right?
It's Mortal Kombat or something, right?
Yeah,
Um, but just people that like get up in your face and are tanky and hit hard. Like I've been playing a lot and getting really aggressive. That's kind of been my thing because I've always been more of like a mage type player.
yeah,
Um, but I think the current meta in League is more aggressive play, like tanky, being able to stand in a fight longer.
yeah.
So I've shifted and I've really enjoyed it because it's so much different than what I'm used to. Um, so it's been different, but I've been doing
I
all
think
right.
it comes with I think it comes with age, We're getting older and you realize you like certain elements. Like I like playing characters where I have to not saying you don't think as a bruiser, but I'm saying like I like playing characters that you have to think because I like the sort of strategic side of it. If there's an
Yeah,
element in which I can use strategy, I'm gonna do it. Hey, this guy's weak to fire, blow you up with fire, that kind of thing.
it's like a different kind of thinking, right? It's
Yeah,
because with a bruiser type, you have to know how much you think you can take while still being effective. And I mean that there's certainly thinking of that. And whereas a mage type, you're more you have like a list of options to employ.
yeah.
How do you best use your skills?
Yeah, you're more like I'm on the outside looking in. What's the best way I can support the guy in the front
Hmm.
is sort of what I like looking at, especially on Dragon's Dogma. We've gotten through a lot of fights in that game really early on because I'm playing the hard mode version. So in
Mm.
the beginning, it's just a fucking nightmare. Um, but when you get a full team of four, it's a matter of like, all right, cool. I can really exploit the weakness of this guy, so I'm gonna keep exploiting him, exploiting his weakness to help the guys in the front. And because of that, I've had a much more successful run. Um, so and that just solidified for me anyway. Solidified that I will be doing, playing with this. When it comes to like fighting games, I think I do a lot of the I used to be a particular kind of like rushdown. Again, much like you with League. I know this probably doesn't make sense, but like rushdown is like getting in someone's face and like staying on them and whatnot.
Hmm.
The intent is to push them towards the corner, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But with with this with fighting games now, I think I like characters that focus on neutral more. So like no actions have been taken that like it's just two people started the match. All they're doing is shooting fireballs at each other. That's neutral. No one has an advantage over the other person. Like if you're more towards the corner, I have the advantage because I can. You can't keep backing up. I'm gonna force you to the wall, and then I get to choose when I disengage and re-engage, kind
Hmm.
of thing. So it's like that.
Well, speaking of this, you kind of touched on it a little bit ago, but we are playing the Division 2,
We are.
and the Raid just came out. We're playing it on PS4. Apparently, the Raid is too difficult for console gamers to beat because nobody's cleared it yet.
Yeah. That's honestly. So it's been cleared, not on console, on PC, I think, but it took them like 5 hours to clear it. So that makes me think that it's not working as intended, even just
Right.
that length alone. Because then you're like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Probably like, all right, hey man, I gotta waste all my ammo on this guy. I'm doing like no damage and taking off his shield, and then I'm gonna hide back in the safe spot, like an exploit. I feel is what they utilize to accomplish their goal. If it took them 5 hours,
You
um,
you never played World of Warcraft, right?
no, but I've done rating.
Well, the reason I bring up World of Warcraft specifically, I don't know if they did it in other games, but in World of Warcraft, they would release a dungeon,
Uh-huh.
and it would be super tough, and like it was a challenge so hard that it would be like the first team that did it would get on like the news, the gaming
It'd
news,
be like
whatever.
world first, yeah,
Yeah, and then what they would do like a week later or something is give everybody like a 15% damage bonus,
yeah.
and then send it in and say now it's the easy, like the normal mode, and then they would do it again at like 25% or whatever. And then by that time it was like who cares, like it doesn't matter.
It was fucking easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you think that is the intention here, is to try to get notoriety for it and then slowly let the norms do it?
No, because I don't think I have a lot of respect for Blizzard, and I think they know how to make a better game than Ubisoft. Unfortunate for Ubisoft. It's not that Ubisoft's bad, but it's
It's not their forte.
it's not their forte to have all their games be properly balanced. Now, that being said, this is a much better experience than the first division. Even though I like the setting of the first division better, it's more of it's more of a situation where I think the um, they're better at just balancing and understanding that hey, maybe something's like not working the way it should, and let's adjust. The easiest way for that is to give like, because Final Fantasy has the same thing. They have an echo boost. So if you get like far enough in, I think it's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes into the fight, because Final Fantasy has really hard fights. It has some really fucking difficult ones that people, much like with World of Warcraft, get like world first, and people are remembered for that. These are the guys that did turn 9 first. These are guys that did turn 13 and fought Bahamut and all that shit, right?
Yeah.
But uh, they put in the echo to where it's like if you do 5 or 10 minutes of the encounter and you die, you get a little bit of a boost to sort of assist you in that case. But there are still times where Square has nerfed an encounter or they've changed the way an encounter works because of, there's a very low success rate. Like they want it to be a low success rate because that game does, expect a lot of like teamwork and unity, but at the same time they also don't want it to be no one can do it so they can't enjoy the content we spent so much
Yeah.
time creating. But I
Right.
don't think
Right.
Ubisoft is has that sort of foresight to
Well,
look at it and go, yeah,
Ubisoft didn't even put in a matchmaking system, right?
no, they didn't.
So what are the
Uh,
odds that Ubisoft was like, we promised a raid, quickly, John, I'm going to John. He's a white guy. Just John, uh, quick, make a raid and put enemies in it, and then release it. Do you think
well,
that's? Do you think the foresight was about there, as opposed to like something WoW would do, where they play test and
I think they
perfect it?
play tested it.
Who
In
did they play test? Then if that's an interesting
internal.
point, did they play test it and realize nobody would ever beat it?
No, I think they had a success rate, but I think the thing is I think we're also a bit knee jerk on this. This is the first raid for this for this game. So this is the first raid with all the properties, all the abilities that you get in this game that you could do in this game, all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so with that in mind, I think there's also a level of people being so used to doing what we're doing right now, which is just hot, parking behind a wall, laying these dudes out, from a distance and moving forward. That when the game actually takes advantage of enemy placement and just sort of the types of mobs that you fight, that becomes a bit of a different game altogether. Now you're in a situation where you have to run down a tight corridor where there's a bunch of those like what's it called dudes, those crazy dudes that hype themselves up on the drug, behind you, and in front of you are a bunch of snipers. So you have to sort of like balance in between that.
Yeah.
Like I never took it as enemy placement in this game really complicated the game, except for that one boss that we fought, the fire dude.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he was the only enjoyable boss fight. I'm not saying that.
But
I
he
disagree with that.
challenged.
Yeah,
He
he
made us
challenged.
plan out where we were going, and not just once, but like 3 times during the fight.
Yeah, he forces you to move, and then his guys are still running around. So you're like, oh crap, is this? You have to make a lot of decisions. So I could see a lot of people remembering that fight because it was like, oh hey, this is, more of a situation in which I need to be smarter about what I do. And I feel that's the same thing that could apply to people if they're playing the raid and it's doing that. That people are like, oh man, this thing is like impossible to beat or it's so hard to beat. But it's like you've done it before. They've just now sort of taken off the gloves and are showing you, here's what we do with our enemy placement. Here, I mean, we haven't played it, but I'm almost tempted to wait for the matchmaking to have us run through it, just give it a shot one time, just to be like, all right, let's see what the fuss is about, just to do it.
Yeah, apparently it's been beaten on PC, like you said, but not on console. Probably having a lot to do with hitboxes and the fact that your aiming is just not quite there on console. Um, I don't know what you can do about that. Make the hitboxes bigger on console, then all the PC players are gonna brag and stomp their chests.
Well, so there's a level of um, understanding that going back to Blizzard that they understood when it comes to Overwatch and on console and on PC, the characters are not the same, right? There are significant differences to how the characters are on console and on PC. Certain characters can do certain things that they can't. There's changes. So I think that just needs to happen here to an extent. I mean, Overwatch can be very toxic, but at the same time, I'd rather just be able to be like, all right, hey, I can get through the content now, rather than they nerfed it so I can, finally see what's going on, and I'm so upset. Like, I really don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, we should run through it. We're level 25 and
27,
26, I think.
I thought we were like 27 and 26.
Maybe that's it, 26, 27. So we should be able to do it pretty soon. Of course, we probably have to gear up a lot more. That
Yeah, I
includes
mean,
the
we should
dark
probably go
zone.
back to the. We should probably go back to the dark zone because you can just do multiplayer matches. We could do that too, by the way. Go to the dark zone and what's it called? And queue for some PvP.
I'm
It's
down.
not bad.
I mean, I'm not going to be
It's fun.
good, but I'm down to try it and play it.
Yeah. No, that'd be fun.
You've seen me play Overwatch. You know what you're working with.
I know what I'm working with, but I'm not. I don't really care about what I see. I'm more concerned about, or not concerned. I'm more aware of how you can operate in a team environment. You have a team mentality. That's more important than, hey, I can pick people's heads off. I don't need a lone wolf, when I can have a guy that's like, hey, man, we need to push on this side. Okay, cool.
Um, I want to touch on this. One thing I was watching. I saw this show called Dead to Me. It's on Netflix,
Oh, jeez.
and I can't talk about it for too long, but uh, I found out that it was created by like Will Ferrell and Adam McKay. That's the Anchorman crew.
Yeah.
If you're expecting it, it's absolutely nothing like Anchorman at all in any way. But it's a 10-part series on Netflix. I'm assuming they're gonna try for another season. I'm gonna totally spoil it too, and I don't care. Um,
Spoiler warning.
yeah, spoiler warning. Whatever. Don't want to see this crappy show. So the premise is that there's a lady. There's a married couple, right? And they get something happens. The guy goes for a jog or something. Goes out at night, and he gets hit by a car and dies. The person that hits him, it's a lady and her husband or her boyfriend. The lady ends up meeting the wife of the guy that died, and they have a friendship, and she lives in her house. And of course, she has this big secret that she killed her husband or whatever.
Huh.
It's supposed to be. I mean, it's labeled as a dark comedy. I wonder if people attribute the dark comedy moniker to things that just aren't that funny.
I feel like it's a cop out.
Yeah.
Because they could be like, oh, well, you just don't get it. It's too offensive for you. It's like, no, it's just not funny.
Yeah. Because this one didn't have like so much dark humor. Like when I think of dark comedies, I think of like Rushmore. I think The Big Lebowski is considered dark comedy, but things like the stuff doesn't necessarily always have to be dark. It's just the way that it's delivered is kind of realistic, dry, cutting, that kind of humor. And this one almost had like an Apatow feel from like 2007. You know, when he was always trying to get all the people to do improv. You remember all that? Or you got like Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill, and they're just riffing off of each other. That was kind of the humor that I got from a lot of it. Whenever they were trying to be funny, is you could kind of tell. It's like, all right, now be funny for the next 3 minutes, and then they just kind of stumble over each other. And like, for instance, they're talking about one of the characters, how he's hot and has a big dick, and then they just like go on for like seriously 2 minutes, just going like, it's so rare. Wow, I'll never find somebody like that. Wow. And it just kind of goes on and on. And there's certain actors that are really good at that. I think Will Arnett's really talented at that kind of riff where you can throw something semi-random out there, and it's funny because of how, like, the twist that it takes to the conversation. But Christina Applegate, and then whatever that girl's name is that played Velma or whatever, I just don't think they have it. They just come across as really bitchy the whole time. So, I really, it's like an emotional one of those, like, it's supposed to be comedy or dark comedy, but it's really an emotional roller coaster, which I can never get behind. That's why I don't watch dramas. But it's such like a chick flick thing where everybody has really expensive houses, but it doesn't seem like they work. That's kind of my big complaint about all chick flick stuff. It really just irks me. It's like their entire day is spent just doing whatever they want, and then they go home to their mansion. Super bizarre.
Back to our mansion.
Such a chick flick thing. But the last couple of episodes, it really played its hand as like a political movie where it is bringing that message that white males are really bad.
They're the worst, actually.
Yeah, they're the worst. Desert Owner says he's heard that Netflix is losing subscribers. Maybe, but they're still super rich, so it probably doesn't matter that much. Um, but like, so there's 3 white men that stand out in the show to me, and actually 4. We'll do 4. So the husband, the one that dies, they kind of explore him during the show. And apparently he's just a big asshole who's been cheating on her the whole time. So there's that. And then there's the other lady's boyfriend. And he's played by James Marsden. I'm a big fan of his. I like him. And apparently he's an asshole. I didn't really get that. I mean, I got little snippets of him being a jerk, like not being super nice, but he wasn't horrible. And then at the end, this would be a big spoiler, is he gets...
Wait, so you watched the whole thing?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
How can you do that, though?
Well, because she was watching it, and I played Persona for a lot of it.
Oh.
I might
Got
beat
it.
And she... So basically, at the end, the wife of the guy that died killed the other girl's boyfriend.
Okay.
Because he knew about the accident the whole time. But the person that killed her husband was the other girl, and that everybody knew that at the end. So for some reason, they found it more interesting to just kill the other guy. Kind of like you killed my man, I'm gonna kill yours, I guess. It made absolutely no sense to me, and it just ends once that becomes apparent. But there's also a scene where she's trying to find the guy who hit her husband, and she finds out that this one guy has the car that matches, and she's a real estate agent, and she goes into his house saying like, "Oh, I can help sell your house," and the guy goes, "Okay." And then the guy's like, "You want a drink?" And then she goes, "Sure," and she starts drinking with him, and then gets into his car with him, and then realizes that it's not him because he hasn't actually driven this car yet. He's working on it. It's like a shop thing. And then she tries to get out of the car. He's like, "Oh, I'm done. I'm going to get out." And then starts jamming on the handle. And it's like an expensive car. And she can't get it because it's stuck. He reaches over trying to help her unstick it or whatever. And then she freaks out and punches him in the mouth. And then says, "No means no." And then storms off. Like, that's the end of the scene. And it never comes up ever again. It's super bizarre. It's like it's to me, it's just in there to get that message across of like, women are strong and white men specifically, are evil. Because the only other real man in the whole show is this black dude, who, by the way, acts totally like a white dude and is super weak. He's got no flavor to him, and it's really awkward. Like, it seems to have a real agenda on it.
Well, I mean, things can have agendas on it. I think it's just more about how it's treated. Like, Captain Marvel had an agenda attached to it, as a good example, and it was very public. Like, they didn't even try and hide it. They weren't like, I mean, I guess it came out that way. They fucking knew.
Yeah.
But the thing is that in knowing that they had an agenda behind it, I expected them to respect the audience. I think that's what upset me
About Captain Marvel?
Yeah, was that it was just like, have you seen it?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So like there's 2 scenes I absolutely hated that pissed me off because they were so over the top and so on the nose that I was just upset. One was "I'm Just a Girl" playing. Not only is it not a good fight song really at all, but it's fucking obvious. Like, I get it, right? You don't have to go that far.
Yeah.
And then the second was, they call it the cockpit for a reason. That line, I visibly cringed in my seat. And I was just like, that is such a shitty fucking line. Because I don't care if you thought you're smart when you came up with it. It's just it's about respecting the audience too. And imagine I'm a guy who likes film like I do now, but never found out that it was an agenda movie. That would just piss me off like so much more. Just being like, yeah, I fucking get it. She's a girl. Like I get it. She's supposed to be a powerhouse. They are planning for the future. She is going to be the new sort of leader of the Avengers moving forward, right? Hopefully that's more organic, by the way, not
Is
just like, oh,
is
you
is that
strongest.
something that you think like she's gonna be the leader of the Avengers?
Oh, Kevin Feige said it was.
Oh
she's
really? I didn't know
yeah.
that.
I don't think in the comics if she did lead the Avengers, she didn't for long. A lot of people have a bad taste in their mouth from her because of Civil War II, which um, wasn't a good comic, to be honest, series of stories. But furthermore, you just couldn't really buy her reasoning. Like the first Civil War, Captain America, Iron Man, you could buy both sides.
Yeah.
You'd be like, it makes sense, you know. But on that one, it was just an abuse of power, and a lot of people got pissed off at the end result because now it was Iron Man versus Carol Danvers. So it was just like, well,
But in the comic books, she's not as like powerful, right?
no, not nearly. In fact, like the whole like Thanos stuff or whatnot, and again, Kevin Feige did mention this, but he's like, yeah, she's not this strong, but we're making her this sort of powerhouse. I think for what else they have coming. Um, some of the scenes because Captain Marvel was shot uh, after Endgame,
Mhm.
and
Right.
when
That's because she had like all the makeup on and the end game
yeah,
parts of the end game because she didn't quite know where they were taking that character yet, right?
right. But if you notice, there are some similarities on certain elements, like when she crashes through Ronan's ship and tears it apart. In Endgame, they did that, but because Captain Marvel came out before that, they had to show that she had the capability of doing that. I still don't agree with it
Oh.
that because I just feel like she just trivializes all threats.
Oh
Like
yeah.
why do you have even Hawkeye or anyone else around if she can do that, you know? Um,
100%. Yeah.
but at the same time, I get why they had it shown because now it shows, hey, she can do it again. And you're like, okay, cool. Yeah, she can do it again. Um, Still think there's an issue with power scaling on it, but you know, I'll reserve judgment until I see more films with her in it and whatnot.
What the hell? What the hell was up with that haircut?
Which one?
On
Oh,
the
in Endgame?
Yeah.
That's how she looks in the comics.
Serious?
Yeah, she had her hair cut. Yeah.
Oh, it's no good. Looks like Justin Bieber or something.
I mean, I think it looks better in the comics. I think it's just because I'm used to seeing it in the comics more than I am.
Ah.
But
Do you read the comics and stuff?
uh, that guy was telling me about the comics explain. A
Oh,
lot of
he
times,
did a whole
if I
thing
have
on it.
downtime, yeah, he goes through all that stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh. Anyway, just want to talk a little bit about that in case anybody's looked at or seen it or something.
So essentially, don't.
I wouldn't. It's not. I didn't think it was very good. Maybe my girlfriend liked it. Maybe if you're a girl, you like it. I don't know. I don't like it. Um, Next up, we got real quick. I just want to mention this before we get into like the Microsoft stuff. Is did you see that uh, Borderlands 3 the pre-orders were pulled from the Epic Games Store?
Let me go there because I heard there was a. Big story. Let's see.
Yeah, Epic Games had like a mega sale going on.
Yeah, there were two people. Uh, so yeah, apparently got pulled, but they don't. There's no one stating this is why. Um, that's weird. There was a lot of stuff that was on sale, and there was Borderlands, and I think there was something else that got pulled.
Like a vampire game.
Was it
Desert Loner.
Masquerade?
Real quick, yeah, Masquerade. Desert Loner says my top 3 favorite Marvel heroes are Hawkeye, Black Widow, and Hulk. Desert Loner, does that have to be from the movies or comic books? Because obviously they're kind of different characters in a way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Hawkeye and Black Widow are grounded at least. You know.
But they're grounded in a world that isn't grounded, so I can't say I like them very much. Like if it was established that the world was kind of lower and that it wasn't so crazy, then yeah. But in a world where you also have Thor and Captain America and like who's like genetically altered or whatever, and like a lot of crazy stuff going on, I just can't get into Hawkeye and Black Widow. I just think
Um,
they're silly.
who
Anyway,
is your favorite character?
oh, my favorite.
Yeah.
That's so tough because I like Batman.
No, Marvel.
I know.
Oh, you jackass.
Um, I don't know. Storm from X-Men.
Because she's black.
I think she's very sexy. But I like the
She's
whole
pretty.
mimic or controls weather kind of thing. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
What about you?
Uh, in the comics or outside the comics?
You could do favorite of all. So,
Well, I mean, it's Iron Man, but it was Iron Man before the Iron Man films. Like, I liked him
so you
in
liked
general.
Iron Man before Iron Man was cool? Are you a hipster?
Yeah, I am. Um, and now that Endgame is wrapped up, assuming Nova comes out, he'll be my favorite in the MCU. But I do like Spider-Man because Tom Holland does a good job. I feel like it's a cop out to say Spider-Man or Iron Man or something like that. But Spider-Man, if Tom Holland wasn't just, you know, the epitome of a teenager just trying to, fighting in a superhero war, you know, then I would say somebody else. But he's very good.
As far as the Borderlands 3 goes, we don't know why they pulled out officially.
Yeah.
There's rumors that it's because there's like a discount going on that they didn't agree to.
Yeah, they probably shouldn't do that for a game that's not out.
Yeah, because the reason that's kind of going on is that they did say they pulled the game and then said they would still honor people that have already pre-ordered with the deal. So the assumption is when they redo it, it won't have that deal attached. I don't know. We don't know
Apparently,
officially yet, though.
so here's a couple of things. Epic obviously said the fact that the company is taking $10 off the price of any game that's above $15. So it's just $5. But said Epic stated they'll be paying $10 out of pocket, meaning the publisher's cut of the sale won't be unaffected.
I saw a video
Will
earlier.
be unaffected. I'm sorry. So
I,
they're like, hey, we'll front it.
I saw a video earlier. I don't think it matters, but I'm gonna put it up with you anyway. It was from that really annoying British dude. Can't
Which
remember. The
Can't say
Jim
totals
Quisition.
yet. Yeah. What about him?
He put up a video about it saying, and I think this is BS, but I wanted to run it by you. He was saying that the reason that's bad is that it's going to look like they're hiking up the price after.
I mean, by saying that, you're pretty much stating that the community can't read.
That's what I said. It was like, well, everyone knows what a sale is. Like,
Yeah. You're pretty much saying that not only can they not read, but they can't understand that the price is normally at $60, and then by them taking $10 off that they're fronting themselves, you know, which I would assume is going to the developer. Uh, by them taking that $10 off, it's a situation in which um, they're promoting that this is the power of us having this different sort of one being a company that does have a lot of money because they have one of the most popular game engines out there. Yeah, Fortnite, but let's talk about the Unreal Engine. And then two, Obviously they have their own game development um, uh, engine as well, which is also free, mind you. So they make money, a lot of money, and not only that, they are the new kid on the block, so they're trying to set a good foot forward. I think it's one of those situations where I feel like gamers are so used to just like the abusive side of gaming that when something genuinely good for all parties involved and Epic is like, hey, we'll front it, is just looked at negatively, and people are just like, it's like an abused wife.
Yeah.
And she's the police officer's reaching out, hey, the bad guy is, or husband, abused wife or husband, abused spouse. Police officers reaching out, hey, bad guy or gal, it has been detained, or whatever the case is. You can come out of hiding. They're pretty much just like swatting that hand away, go like, no, I don't trust you. That's pretty much it.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah, it's like if gamers can't look at that and go, this is all right, or this is decent. If they go, this is negative, that says a lot about you. It says more about you than it does about the guys that are doing the sale.
Absolutely.
Because game's not out, so sale to me seems like, I don't know if I do that, but also consider they're fronting this money to the publishers and whatnot. Then it's like, oh, on behalf of the publishers, then it's like, oh, well, it's not a bad thing. People are just being silly about it and having knee-jerk reactions. Literally, I feel like we talk we talk about everything the exact same way. We go, maybe wait until it plays out on everything,
Yeah.
So.
Well, this one you don't even have to wait till it plays out. It's just a good deal. Like, it's good.
Yeah. So he goes, but neither customer nor seller has been left too impressed. Okay, that's an opinion, sure, but it's not the truth. Neither customer nor seller. You don't speak for me. You speak for yourself.
That
and
doesn't.
Just
Yeah. The game hasn't come out yet. What do you mean has? What?
No, it's in his description, yeah. And then this guy goes, now I know why Steam isn't doing anything with Epic's aggressive expansion. They're shooting themselves in the foot. How?
What?
So
I'm so weird with all this shit.
I'm sort of, yeah. How are people getting pissed off because there's a sale? Whatever.
Strange fucking people. Hey, what's up, Living Before? It's been a while.
Yeah. That's weird.
Anyway, this one's interesting. Microsoft and Sony are working together on a cloud type system for games, which we kind of hit upon this, I think, last night when we were playing Division.
We didn't play last night, dude.
Or the night before? When did we play?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the night before. Sorry.
Dang, man. All the days just blur together.
They just blur together, baby. The other day we were playing Division, we were talking about this. Is like the next group of consoles, they're going to be heavily pushing cloud-based gaming. We assume. That's what Google's doing. Microsoft's already said that's their plan. Which I think, interesting side note, you know how like that new Microsoft console just got released, where it's all digital?
Oh yeah, they have like one of those that, yeah.
I think the reason that got released is that it's going to be enabled with that cloud streaming.
Yeah.
Once that happens, it's going to be like, that one's cloud enabled. And then, because it's confusing to look at if you don't put that into perspective, the release doesn't make any sense, right? It's like not really cheaper than the other option, and it has less functions. So you're just like, why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense. But if you put into the perspective that it's also going to have cloud gaming once that gets released, then it's like, oh, okay, I see. But it is kind of weird because apparently Microsoft and Sony have been working together for a long time on random things.
I would like to think for the greater good.
I would hope so. Yeah. But now apparently they've been working on this and people are kind of going crazy about it. Do you think What do you think this means for competition? Like, do you think that means we're going to see less competition between these two, more like playing together online than we have had? Um, or do you think it's just like a one-off thing that people are doing?
I think it sets the. I think it's a good thing overall because there's still going to be competition. Tencent is trying to drop something. Amazon has rumored about like doing something, and obviously Google with the Stadia thing and whatnot. I feel it's important that the guys that have the street cred make a good impression. Um, the street cred with the gamers, um, to sort of get that done. And this is really like a Game of Thrones esque like partnership.
Yeah, it's huge.
In, yeah, in the sense that it's like, wow, this is like world changing stuff because it's important that they um, being well, yeah, technically Google's bigger than all of them. Um, them being able to set us off proper and create something because they've been in the game longer. They could easily be outpaced, both of them, if Google's Stadia is like legit.
Yeah.
Like because that's really what happened last generation with the Xbox 360 and the PS3 is Microsoft outpaced
with
Sony
with the online stuff.
not only pricing but the online, the first party support they had. It was just a better experience on Xbox. And that's just the way it was. Anyone who's saying otherwise is a fanboy. You weren't, or they weren't there. Or they weren't there for the entirety of the generation to see it. I
Yeah.
got a PlayStation with $600.
Um, let's upgrade this conversation just a bit.
Oh,
Living Vapor said, "Oh God, no, not the cloud gaming streaming live games. We won't own anything, and we will be banned from our own purchases." I don't know if he's being silly or not. He did put like a little face on it, so I
yeah.
don't know how serious he is. But what's your opinion on cloud gaming in general?
Well, I mean, technically, if you digitally purchase a game, you don't actually own it. I don't have access to it 24/7. Only when my licenses work, which they usually do. But
Well,
let's just say,
I think he's saying once you do that, you won't have the option to buy physical. I think the assumption is eventually we're going to lose physical entirely.
I kind of am okay with that. I don't buy too much physical lately. The last physical game I bought was Kingdom Hearts, and I'm looking to return that shit. So, I mean, it's I can get it from the standpoint that people want to have it in their hands and whatnot. But if all you're gonna do is have it in your hands to put it in a disk drive, what's the difference of it staying in the drive? And you just imagining that transaction. I really don't. I get from a collector standpoint that some people want to be able to physically have that, right? Like Troy's a good example. Troy has a shit ton of fucking games because he went on a huge collector's binge, and he was talking about like his most prized possession. I think he has a copy of um, Paper Mario, sealed, never opened,
For the
um,
64?
for the 64.
Hmm.
I think he said that was his most prized possession, or it's one of the Mario games, but it's his most prized possession, and I get that. But collectors of gaming aren't really the majority. Um, the
Well, and
majority are people.
they're also not gamers. I mean, you can be a
Well, Troy
gamer.
is.
You can be a gamer and do it,
Yeah,
but the art of collecting video games is not gaming. I think.
yeah. Like if you're dumpster diving,
Yeah,
just
you're an antiquer that happens to be in the genre of games.
yeah,
But
you're
you're
an
not a
antique
gamer.
first. Yeah, like because you're never gonna play those games, but you're gonna walk in that room and look at them, and yeah, you'll get fulfillment. But at the end of the day, to look at you and go like, "Hey, what do you think about this being cloud gaming?" It's kind of irrelevant because it's like asking someone who plays just strictly like Candy Crush to be like, "Hey, what do you think about this development?" Like, who fucking cares? You know?
Living Vapor saying with digital you can still save the data on your end and play your side, but with cloud you won't even have that. We can literally lose art if we go full on cloud. I'm semi serious about the ban thing. Blizzard has banned a few people from their Blizzard games from saying dumb stuff on Twitch, which they had linked to watch Overwatch. That is insane.
Oh well, It's actually that. But I feel Blizzard nowadays is more of Activision than it is Blizzard. So
Here's where it gets messy. Is like in a perfect world, going all digital, all remote,
yeah,
whatever, cloud gaming, it would be great because you don't, like you said, you don't need a physical copy. You just find the game you want, play it. I'm sure there's still obviously going to be a mechanism for saving. You'll be fine. But we're handing a lot of this artistic content to
yeah.
corporations, and I can agree that that's where it gets a little bit scary.
But you say that, but these are also the corporations who have created said artistic content.
Right, but they don't have, they might not have the financial incentive to retain everything.
So you're telling me that Sony wouldn't keep Last of Us?
Well, no. That's the thing is the games like The Last of Us would be safe, right? But what about a game made by like Majesco?
Well, that's dependent on the developer and their interaction with Sony at that point. And if they want to put it on
Yeah.
a different platform, I'm sure there's going to be an option for indie or for smaller companies just in general. Not saying Majesco's like indie, but um, to allow access like that.
Well, that's where it gets a little bit dicey. Only from the perspective of retain the artwork or the art of gaming. Is it gets a little bit scary with because you don't know if maybe the company's super small and they couldn't afford
If
to do
if
it
you're
or
if you're worried about those things, then you might as well turn into a collector and get some of those games to ensure that you have a route to play them.
right.
Like you're saying Majesco, right? So, what was the last game? For example, what was the last game that Majesco came out
You're asking me.
with? Well, you mentioned them.
That's because I was thinking of a good and obscure
Majesco.
company.
They are obscure.
Let's see. There.
They're out of Jersey. God damn, they've got a lot of games published. Well, they publish games.
Like, what's gonna happen to Zumba Fitness?
I think we'd all be better off without it. But let's just say a good example is something like Blood Rain. they, they, they publish Blood Rain.
Oh
So
God.
a game like Blood Rain, if it's not, if they can control if that game is on their, I mean, technically right now, there's a big legal battle going on with Apple
Yeah.
that they've actually lost and are now it's now getting pretty much it was ruled that they can have a monopoly in their own app store because there's not another avenue of approach for creating an application that goes onto iPhones, which is it was a ruling. So that's affecting how a lot of people look at games, look at avenues like the PSN or the Xbox store, the Xbox or Microsoft store. Um, if this ruling is to be believed, that means that PSN would have to allow either a third party or third parties to create to have games be made available to download onto their platform that's not first party. So they wouldn't have a PSN anymore. They'd be able to go, hey, you have an Xbox, you can download Halo. You can complete the transaction on PlayStation, but download Halo for your Xbox account. That's pretty much what a lot of people are thinking is it could potentially happen because they lost. Um, the App Store is they have a monopoly on it. It's apparently unconstitutional. So if that is to be believed, that would mean games made by people like Majesco would have an avenue through a third party vendor to allow games onto that onto your Xbox or your PS4. But what I'd say before any of that is a lot of those games are fairly old or older. They probably don't have the same connections that they do with a lot of, with Sony or Microsoft or things like that. I would say you're better off actually having a digital copy of that game. Like, let's just say Blood Rain came out on PS3, having a digital copy of that version or a physical copy of that version on your PS4.
Like digital and toss it on a hard drive.
Yeah, and toss it on a hard drive kind of thing. If you're
Um,
that worried about it, I don't think it's going to go that angle though, because of that court rule.
Thank you, Majority. You're my favorite. You're the man.
You're tolerable. No, I'm kidding. I'm
Whoa.
joking.
Yeah,
But that's
this
yeah.
debate's gonna get crazy and soon. Um,
Let it. This stuff has to happen. Um, like uh, it's not necessarily a situation where it's like you need to have um you can only have development through competition. Sometimes it can be working together to create a solution,
mhm.
on things. And I think this is one of those situations. But I think people, as we say all the time, are reacting. It's a knee jerk reaction that people are going, this is bad or this isn't good or whatever like that. We need to wait and see how it plays out. They've only announced it. You don't know the specifics of it. None of
Yeah,
us do. Technically, Sony and Microsoft don't even know because they don't know how far it could go. You know,
true.
of what they're actually trying to accomplish. Just that they can accomplish they can provide a deliverable to the extent of providing cloud gaming. As far as to if we own it or not, no, you still don't own your digital
You
purchases.
don't really own your physical.
You don't really own your physical. Yeah. So when was the last time you actually physically rented a movie? As an example, that transaction or bought a movie physically, when you can just buy it off of like Amazon or something like that. Convenience sells in this day and age
Ownership,
because
ownership of a licensed property that's a conversation in and of itself that
that you
needs
will lose
to be
because
explored.
you already signed a user agreement on
Yeah.
that website or on that service or anything like that. So when you say like you can save part of your game to or you can save your save data onto PS4, sure, but can you play that game anytime you want? Not if your licenses don't clear. You cannot.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean,
So
we're clearly not in the age of a Super Nintendo where you put it in and it goes. Um, that is kind of beyond. Also, I would say something to think about is like I worry about corporations having control of the licenses of games and art history in a way, but a company, if they have a way to make money, then they'll do it. And having a video game on a cloud, if putting that up there gets them money, they're going to do it. So it's more than likely we won't run into a major problem where a game comes out and it's super rare and you can't play it. I can't foresee that would be a common problem. So I guess crossing my fingers that that's accurate.
yeah, it's really hard just to say like that will in fact be the case, especially when we don't know the extent of the cloud medium. The only thing I'm worried about is I have tried cloud gaming in the past and it just didn't work out for me. There was a lot of lag attached to it. It just didn't feel
Everyone's got to get gigabit internet. Seems obvious to me.
yeah, it's
It'll be
pretty much.
cheaper
I mean,
later. It'll be cheaper down the
in
road.
in that essence, that itself is a level of competition breeding change. Because then it's like going, well, to these service providers, they need to provide more resources for people who want a faster internet connection speed.
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
that's probably one thing that isn't going to enable cloud gaming immediately. Is we're just not there yet as far as infrastructure,
Yeah,
but it'll happen later.
it'll happen.
It will happen later. He brought up an interest. Living Vapor mentioned classic WoW hype. We need to talk about that, and not today, in a different show. But
Classic WoW hype. What do you mean?
do you know?
Oh,
Remember?
just that it's coming back.
Yeah.
If you want me to put Eric on this one, because I
Well, it
can't
brings
talk
up
to that.
it brings up a really interesting topic of do people how deep is nostalgia?
Nostalgia is incredibly powerful. Are you kidding me? I
Right.
was I was on the internet the other day. Two things are getting rebooted. Literally, I was on the internet the other day. I sound like an old person.
I was
I was
on
on
the internet.
I was on the World Wide Web and saw that they're rebooting Saw with um, Chris Rock. Yeah, and then the other thing was
You
they're like,
want
hey,
me to cut what?
right? Oh hell no! You must be out of your damn mind.
Living Vapor, I'll invite you for sure.
Yeah.
Love to have you.
Yes, Chris Rock to reboot the Saw franchise with Lionsgate and Twisted Pictures. Yeah,
That's a different idea.
it's fucking
Props for
random.
being different, you know.
So, so with that in mind, you've got that, and then also the Mortal Kombat reboot. So essentially, we're rebooting two different franchises, right? That are gone in the movie side of Mortal Kombat is gone, right?
Right.
They've talked about that reboot. They've talked about well, Saw sort of ran its course, and then they did the Jigsaw thing, but I guess that's not going to matter anymore. And then now they're going to just flat out reboot it,
Yeah.
and then it's going to be Jigsaw back again. And then let's not forget, we get reboots all the time. Resident Evil 2 remake just came out. Final Fantasy 7 remake is
People
scheduled
are
to come out
hyped out of their asses for that stuff.
because nostalgia sells. We're in an age where nostalgia is good enough to be resold.
I would be super curious if there was ever a time where, or if it was always been like this and we're just old enough to notice.
I think you'd have to have a medium that has a little bit of history for it to be that way. Like,
Yeah.
if movies were just coming out, right? Like it's like the 1920s. You don't want a reboot of anything. You're still exploring. It's more a reboot is let me go back to that time. Let me go back to that destination or that area that I visited. So in that regard, you can equate it to being like you're on a journey and you're like, all right, I've explored enough, right? I've seen these random films about different subject matter, some good, some bad, whatever. I'm going back to this one place where I had a good memory to visit. Like, who doesn't go back to places that they had good memories at? It's just escalated to being something that you can sell. It's a product now. So now you can go, remember that time when Ares died or Aerith died?
Yeah.
Well, now you get to see that in nice 4K, you know, resolution,
New battle
better
system.
graphics, voice acting, all that shit. Which
Yeah.
I'm gonna get the remake because fuck it, I'm gonna support Square.
Well, beyond anything else, it's probably going to be a good fucking game.
It's probably gonna be a good game. I mean, that's a topic for its own discussion about the knee jerk reactions to that. But it's
Those,
it
yeah,
sells.
I think those would be good topics for another podcast because we're topped out. We're at like an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. Living with Poor, I will get with you to get that Discord. I thought I had you on Discord in some manner. Maybe not, but I'll find you. But yeah, I mean, besides that, I think this is the end of the show. Anything you want to say to the people, JD?
Don't be a knee jerker.
Be an
Don't
arm
jerk people,
jerker.
please, man. Yeah. Just wait for shit to come out as it unfolds. Wait for a story to develop. Don't just go, this is wrong. Wait for a story to develop before you make an opinion.
Yeah.
Or not make an opinion before you get upset, I think is the best thing.
That's true. I think I was going to say, I think you can have an opinion on something like that's because that's what would propel you to buy a game, right?
That's what we've just been doing this whole time. Yeah.
But don't like the concept of hate, right? Like just don't do hate until the thing is there. Just
until you've analyzed it.
Yeah, until you have the ability to see it. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll do it again next week. I'm not sure what day. Maybe we'll keep it Saturdays. I'm not sure.
Yeah, probably.
But anyway, have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.